I am a big fan of anyone that tackles the gigantic and enormous, beautiful story of American history. When Alexandra O. Hudson came out with her book, The Soul of Civility, Timeless Principles to Heal Society and Ourselves, I got to tell you something, Hudson. I was skeptical of your, because you build it around, you take a look at Adams and Jefferson, two guys that couldn't look much different. More different. And then their positions during, basically Federalist, Adams wanting the bigger government, Jefferson wanting more the power to the states. And then you take us through in your book the problems that then arose and how mean they were to one another and the horrible things they said about each other. So that's, I guess, as we sort of saw what history was, and it repeats itself again and again. You're looking at what was then and what's happening now, and you're thinking that those that are on the right and left can find some place of peace in between. If you see what Jefferson and Adams were able to do, is that basically it?
I agree. I'm like you, a big fan and student of history. Mark Twain said it well, that history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. And I love looking to the past to help us lead richer and better lives today. And I love this story of Jefferson and Adams, who were once close friends. I mean, everyone's seen the musical 1776. Like
Yep.
they're
Yeah.
they're friends. They're both co-signers of the Declaration of Independence. They are on the same team. They're mission aligned during that season of history. And in fact, Jefferson is Adams' vice president.
Right.
And so they're allies, they're colleagues. And then, but things start to go south when they begin to let politics get in the way of their friendship. I mean, Jefferson thought Adams was a mercurial tyrant, and Adams thought Jefferson was a radical revolutionary. And then Jefferson ended up running for president against Adams. He, primaried his president, and that got really vicious. This is the presidential election of 1800, and both Team Adams and Team Jefferson came out swinging. Team Adams said about Team Jefferson that if Jefferson were to become president, we would see our wives and daughters victims of legal prostitution, and America would devolve into a country where murder, robbery, rape, and adultery and incest will be taught openly in practice. So talk about that dramatization of the enemy,
And who was a hermaphrodite? Who got accused of being hermaphrodite?
Exactly. Yeah. And then Jefferson's side condemned Adams as a hypocrite who behaved neither like a man nor a woman, but instead possessed a hideous hermaphroditical character. Yeah, exactly. And we think our rhetoric is bad today, but it's been bad before. I think history is both a caution and comfort to us in that way. But both men placed politics over friendship, and they didn't talk for 12 years after that.
Right. But, there was a lot on the line. You go back, I mean, they could have easily have been hung. So their life was in the balance as they broke away from King George. So there was, there was more gravitas. Their decisions really did have life and death, possible outcomes. But I'm talking about today. So now let's flash forward. Here we are, 2024 or 2023, 2024, and people are at each other's throats and they're screaming and yelling and families are breaking apart because you voted for this person, I voted for this person. I think there is a toxic element of the breakdown of community and then people going to their siloed political positions because they don't really have anything else going on in their life. I think it's different now than it was in the 1900s. And I think I don't know why politics, it's so much part of people's lives when it doesn't need to be.
I think you're exactly right. I think as the stakes have gotten higher, people widely feel that stakes have gotten higher in American public life, in the political realm, that for many people, politics has become the most important thing to them. And they have seen that as political difference as a reason to cut family and friends off, lifelong relationships off. And to me, yes, our crisis of polarization is a threat to our democratic institutions. Hyper-partisanship is bad for democracy, but it's crippling to our democracy. But to me, the real toll is how this hyperpartisanship is taking a toll on our personal lives. And I've both experienced it myself, that this political division taking a toll and straining my personal relationships. And I've just kind of come off book tour. I've been in 5 countries and 55 cities over the last year. And I hear this time and time again. This is what's on people's hearts and minds right now. How do I be friends with someone who thinks this crazy thing? And even since my essay in the Washington Post came out yesterday, I've gotten notes from people. You want me to sit down and be friends with a fascist? Like, who do you think you are? That people feel that they're really struggling with this. And I love how this story of Jefferson and Adams, they did ultimately have a rapprochement. Benjamin, and that's instructive to us. They chose, after reaching the pinnacle of American public life, they chose to put friendship over politics. Benjamin Rush had been kind of prodding both of them, softening their hearts, because again, they didn't talk for over a decade after the vicious election of 1800. And finally, they started exchanging letters together. And Jefferson even sent Adams a little homespun, a little, trinket that, as a token and homage.
Which I looked up and was really weird. But anyway, for these two, here's the difference. Bob and Steve hate each other, or Mary and Steve hate each other, and they're going back and forth on Twitter or Facebook or something like that. Who cares? But these guys were forming our country. They could argue and they could fight about things that really mattered. Should more power be to the states? Should we have centralized power in the federal government? And how do we determine with taxes and things like that? I mean, this is real big stuff. But when you get just two neighbors taking shots at each other or refuse to even talk to somebody because, oh, you voted for that fascist. But that is it's small ball, just really kind of, it's just such a waste of your time. Have you lost friends? Lexi, I can call you Lexi because that's kind of your nickname here.
Of course.
Lexi, have you lost friends because of your political stance, or at least your things you've expressed publicly?
This has descended on my life personally. Like, there's someone in my life for whom politics has in many ways become the most important thing to them, and they can't have one conversation without talking about politics. And it's like, and they don't want to have a conversation, actually. They just want to recite talking points. And it's like, at that point, is it even a friend? Is it even a relationship?
No.
And so that's how, and so the sense of the growing stakes, the apocalypticism has contributed to why people have such a hard time putting politics over friendship. And I mean, here, this is what I argued in my essay for the Washington Post yesterday, that how did Jefferson and Adams do it? In their 150 letters that they exchanged from 1812 to when they both died, they talked about everything under the sun.
There you go.
They talked about grandchildren. They talked about their self-care and exercise routines. They talked philosophy and history. And what did they not talk about?
Politics.
Right. They reminisced on the good old days, how they fought side by side in the Revolutionary War and those fun memories, but they conspicuously avoided the sensitive, controversial subjects of their day. They chose friendship, this long-term relationship over public and political issues. And I think that we should too, honestly.
I'll tell you something. It is an encouraging book because it does say that you can move forward and start with the humanity of the individual as opposed to the politics of them. And it was nice to see in none of the letters did Jefferson ever call him a hermaphrodite again.
Exactly. Talk about words spoken or penned in the heat of the moment. I definitely think that.
And isn't it weird? They both died. Didn't they both die on July 4th? And was it Adams died first and like an hour later Jefferson died?
Exactly. They died July 4th, 1826, within hours of one another on the 50th anniversary of the adoption of the Declaration of Independence.
And did Jefferson die broke?
I think he did. I think that's why he could not emancipate his slaves upon his death.
Right.
Unfortunately,
He had to sell all his books. It's
exactly.
It is such a broad and wonderful history that we have. To grab this little slice of it and read about the soul of civility, the timeless principles of healing society and ourselves at a perfect time. Thank you very much, Lexi Hudson, for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me. And I'd just like to say really quickly, on my website, alexandraohudson.com, I have a free ebook for anyone who wants to download it for how to navigate relationships amid a very divisive political climate right now. So please go to my website, and it's 10 tips, 10 secrets to help you navigate the division in our personal relationships, which is exactly why I wrote my book. So please, I hope that's useful.
We'll put it up there for you. Thank you. Appreciate it.